Afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're really excited to have you here as we continue exploring what's possible with NetSuite and how it can support your business goals. This afternoon, we're once again joined by Pam Kite. She is a principal sales consultant from Oracle NetSuite, and she's going to walk us through a very powerful extension of the platform called NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. NSAW for short. What that is, it's built on Oracle's analytics cloud and is designed to give you kind of a deeper enterprise level insight to help blend your NetSuite data with other systems. So if you have other systems, maybe a separate CRM or even Excel spreadsheets, it kind of ties all of that into one unified view. So Pam's going to show us a bit of what that looks like in action. And just as a side note, Oasis can implement and support this as part of your overall NetSuite rollout or as a future phase, so it can easily fit into your roadmap with advanced analytics. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Pam, and thank you.
All right, thanks, Austin. Yeah, so good to talk to everyone today. Pam Kite, principal sales consultant here at NetSuite. I've been with NetSuite now a little bit over 9 years, and prior to NetSuite, I was with Oracle for about 13 and a half. So kind of been in the ERP space for a good many years. So really excited to show you NetSuite Analytic Warehouse. So from an agenda perspective, we'll go through and I'll cover a solution overview of NetSuite Analytic Warehouse. I'll discuss the product and we'll talk about each of the components along with some of the newer AI capabilities in NSAW. I think you're going to get really excited about this capability. Next, we'll move into the solution demonstration of NetSuite Analytic Warehouse and we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. So as we're going through the presentation and I'm going to go through a product demo, please put any questions that you have in the Q&A and we'll address those at the very end. So how can NetSuite Analytic Warehouse resolve any of your key challenges? So what we found with a lot of our NetSuite customers is typically they will have different silos of data. They find where there's no single source of truth. Reporting is very manual. I run into so many customers that create save searches. They'll combine that data, put that into Excel, and really at the end of the day, they find it very slow with very limited insight into their data. And so with NSAW, it's really been built specifically for NetSuite. It contains pre-built connectors. We'll talk a little bit about the connectors a little bit later. It is one platform with drag and drop capabilities, and you do have the capability to bring in any historical and any current data. The other nice thing is it can handle large volumes of data. It's role-based. It also contains out-of-the-box dashboards and KPIs. There's also machine learning where you can identify any type of trends, patterns, and anomalies with your data. So what is NetSuite Analytic Warehouse? It really is an all-in-one solution that has been built specifically for your NetSuite data. You also can bring in external data from other systems. So I find a lot of times I've worked with many customers where they may have Salesforce.com, they may have a legacy, Microsoft system, or they may have HubSpot maybe for their marketing data. And so this does allow for you to be able to bring in any type of external data. It also provides self-service capabilities with tremendous visualizations and predictive analytics capabilities. So when we think about NSAW, I like to kind of frame it where you can look at the various components that make up NSAW. So at the very foundation, we've included what's called the Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse. That kind of is the framework that we've built NSAW on. We also have what's called pre-built NetSuite data pipeline and content. So think about the data pipeline. Think about that being all of the various transaction types that you use in NetSuite. So if you're looking at, maybe you're looking at your procure to pay process, Typically you would have a purchase order, you'd have your item fulfillment, you'd have vendor bills, and you'd have vendor payment. So when we think about data pipeline, your data pipeline would be, of course, your vendor bill, it would be your vendor payment, it would be your purchase order. That is what we refer to as data pipeline. And then what also is included is the Oracle Analytic Cloud. That is the BI tool that is included. A lot of times companies will use, third-party BI tools like a Microsoft Power BI or a Tableau. But with our solution, it does come with the BI tool. We also provide connectors to popular external data sources. I mentioned earlier, Salesforce.com, HubSpot, Google. Those are all connectors that come with the product. I'll actually go through, I've got a couple of slides that talks about all of the various connectors as well. But when we think about the analytic warehouse, this is really the four components that make it up: the data warehouse, the data pipeline, the BI tool, which is the Oracle Analytic Cloud, and then the connectors. Now, with NSAW, there is AI capabilities built in. So a couple of things that you'll see in the solution, and what you're looking at here is what we refer to as auto insights or AI insights. And so here we can see visualizations of vendor bills that we have. And then when you go into NSAW, it will also put any type of insight into your data. So whether you're building a report, whether you have an Excel file that you bring into NSAW, it will go through and analyze all of your data. And so this is a really valuable feature when it comes to NSAW. There also is what's called the explain feature. And so you'll see explain attrition. And what the explain attrition does is you can basically click on any type of item here, and it will give you things like key drivers, it will give you segments, it will give you anomalies on your data. But it basically kind of provides basic facts about your data. So there is this explain capability that you see here. And then along with the AI capabilities, we also provide the capability where you can do reporting across multiple NetSuite instances. I know I've ran across customers where they've acquired a company that has NetSuite, and they need to be able to do reporting across multiple NetSuite instances. And so you do have the capability to do this. So you can combine your data across multiple instances. And you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, it can also combine that data and provide insights into your data as well. We also have included predictive analytics. And so in this example here, this is where you can see payments by risk category. You can look at a listing of customers most likely to pay late, as well as the predicted number of days late for payment. So there is some prediction. When we go into the demonstration, I'll actually highlight some of the prediction analytics that's part of NSAW. But this is just an example of where we've built in predictive analytics. So here I like to show you a representation of basically NetSuite users without NetSuite Analytic Warehouse and NetSuite users with NetSuite Analytic Warehouse. So up here at the top, typically, you've got your NetSuite ERP system, and you can purchase what's called the Suite Analytics connector. That's where you can leverage that connector to be able to do reporting with your NetSuite ERP data. With NSAW, what we've done is, of course, you've got your ERP data. In NSAW, when you license NSAW, it does come with the Suite Analytics connector, so you don't have to license that separately. And then along with that, you have what's included, which is the data pipeline that we talked about. There are the third-party connectors that come with the product, as well as the Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse and the BI tool. So if you were to go out and if you were to think about, gosh, I want to go out and build a data warehouse solution, you would actually have to go and purchase a third-party ETL. You'd have to purchase a data warehouse and a BI tool. What the value add with our solution is it's all included. Okay, so you definitely have all of the various components that make up the data warehouse and NSAW. Now, one of the other things too that I also like to talk about is if you were to use Suite Analytics Connect, you'll notice down here at the bottom we have Suite Analytics Connect versus NSAW. So with Suite Analytics Connect, one of the things that you would have to know how to do is to write SQL code. So, in here, you'll notice the Suite Analytics Connect. You would need to know how to create, select statements, inner and outer joins, and group by statements. And so, I think about myself, I'm not super technical. And so if I'm going to go build a report, this would kind of be foreign to me. And with NSAW, we've really taken all that complexity out when it comes to building reports. And so what you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, this is NSAW, and what we're looking at is a data pipeline of sales orders. And so with sales orders, of course, we have all of the common terms that you're used to seeing in NetSuite. So things like your customer, your subsidiary, so things like your subsidiary name, your item master, things in the item like your item name, your item display name. These are all common things that you're used to seeing in NetSuite. We also have built things like KPIs into the product. So if we want to, look at things like our estimated gross profit, or we want to include total amount of our sales orders, these are all different KPIs and calculations that have been built into the product. So with the data model, one of the things that I like to really point out here is that we have a very robust data model that basically contains all of these various subject areas. So whether you're looking at sales or inventory or manufacturing, financials, we have quite a bit of functional areas as well as procurement and banking. And one area I do like to call out is what's called snapshots. So snapshots can come in very handy when you think about, and a good example would be a snapshot of inventory. If you were to go in and say, for example, you want to look at your inventory as of today. So you can go into NetSuite ERP, you can see what your inventory looks like as of today. One of the things in NSAW is you can create what's called a snapshot in time. So, if we wanted to look at our inventory today, we could, do a snapshot in time. Well, let's kind of path forward 3 months from now. And say, for example, we want to look at our inventory and it's, December 14th, and we want to go back and compare what was the inventory as of October 14th. So that snapshot in time can come in very handy where you can leverage reporting, where you can kind of compare your inventory from December 14th to October 14th. So just keep in mind all of these areas right here, you've got a snapshot capability. When we talk about pre-built sample content, this is basically all of the out-of-the-box dashboards that come with NSAW. So as you notice, there's quite a bit of functional areas when it comes to sales and procurement, and inventory and financials. A lot of times, especially in financials, we want to be able to look at our revenue and expenses and look at things like our spend analysis and look at our suppliers. And then in manufacturing, there's, different areas where you might want to look at work orders, your bill of materials, and then of course in projects and support, we have different areas that you can look at there as well. But these are all of the out-of-the-box dashboards that come with the product. Now, I had mentioned earlier the connectors, and so these are all of the out of the box database connectors that we support. So again, Oracle, SAP, you might have Microsoft, Azure. These are all database connectors that come pre-built with the solution. There are also application connectors that we support. I mentioned earlier, Salesforce.com. So if you want to be able to connect your Salesforce.com data and your NetSuite data together, you can easily do that. Same thing with HubSpot. You might have Google Analytics. I've worked with some customers that were they had an old, Microsoft Dynamics solution, and they wanted to be able to bring that data in and report that with their NetSuite data. I've also worked with customers where they've, used Financial Force, SAP, QuickBooks. So these are all of the application connectors that come with the solution. And then also we have pre-built data connections and connectors with the Oracle Analytic Cloud. So here's kind of just a listing of all of the different connectors here, as well as the NSAW direct connectors. All right, so let's talk about the demonstration. So let's get to all of the exciting stuff. I really get excited about this product because, again, with the dashboard capability and the AI capability, there's really, unlimited capabilities on things that you can do. But from a demo perspective, I'll start off with the dashboards and KPIs that come with the product. These are all out of the box that are available day one. We also have what's called the Content Explorer. The Content Explorer shows you all of the key metrics and is really where the data warehouse is fully documented. So if you're looking for particular areas, maybe you're wanting to look at what metrics do we have that's focused out around revenue or revenue arrangements. You might have, questions where you want to look at vendor bills or you want to look at customer payments. This would be your go-to place if you're looking for the different metrics that come with the solution. So I think this is really a good value add because it is full documentation of the analytic warehouse. We'll next move into the data pipeline. I'll go in and show you how we can combine data pipelines together and we can do reports super easily in NSAW. I'll go in and also show you the pre-built connectors. So if you want to connect to like your Salesforce.com or HubSpot or any of the various connectors, you can easily do that with these connectors. And then next, I'll go in and show you how easy it is to build reports in NSAW. And then we'll wrap up with some of the exciting machine learning capability. There's the AI insights, there's the AI assistant that comes with the product. So I think you guys will get really excited about this capability here. All right, so let's go into NSAW. So I'm currently in the Oracle Analytic BI Cloud tool. And so you'll come right here. You basically can come into your home page, and your home page is really where you can have your workbooks, your data. You can have favorite workbooks. You can even come up here, and if you want to search for a particular report, you would just come up here and put in, if you're looking for tariff planning or you're looking for a pipeline report, you just simply come up here and search for whatever report that you're looking for. And so you have your home page. And so you basically have, from a navigation standpoint, you've got your home page, you've got your catalog, you've got your data, and then your machine learning. This is really primarily where most users will go to. So when it comes to, your catalog, you would just simply click here. What you'll notice on the catalog is you've got a folder for my folders and you've got a folder for shared folders. And so, as I'm creating reports, or maybe I've taken an existing out of the box, dashboard and modified that, I can again save any of my reports into my folders. As we go into shared folders, you'll notice right here we have a NetSuite folder. And what I see a lot of our customers do is they will have their NetSuite folder, and then they may have different folders for their finance team or their operations or their manufacturing teams. And so, up here, you can easily create your own folders and put reports in there and share those reports with your team. But basically, when it comes time to accessing all of your NetSuite out of the box dashboards, you'll just simply come in here into NetSuite and go into detailed dashboards. And so on the detailed dashboards, you'll notice that we've got different functional areas: financials, inventory, manufacturing, projects, and support, purchasing, and sales. So let's kind of first start off with the financials area. I mentioned earlier that there's quite a bit, and on that listing on that slide that I presented earlier, I showed you where there's quite a bit of, out of the box dashboards that come with the product. So, here in the financials area, there are things around, cost of goods sold, days sales outstanding, days payable outstanding, your cash forecast. There's SaaS metrics if you're a software company, things around spend, budget versus actual, and financials. And so on any of these dashboards, we can just simply go in, bring them up. I'll wait for this to go in and paint, but it will, here down at the bottom, I'll kind of call your attention to different other, reports. So, in this particular dashboard, I'm focused on revenue, but we'll go into some of the other ones. You've got expenses and receivables and payables and cash. Up here at the top, this is really where we can go in. And if you want to filter on any of the data, so right now we're looking at 2024. If we want to go and look at 2025, it's just a matter of simply, selecting our month, and it will come. In this case, it would combine both my 2024 and 2025 data. And you'll see that represented right here. We also can look at particular months. We can look at by quarter. So if we want to look at a particular quarter in 2024 or 2025, we simply can go in and select that. Of course, we pick up all of your NetSuite configuration. So things like all of your subsidiaries, your customers, your departments, your classifications, your locations, all of that you would see visibly here in the analytic warehouse. But as we go through, you've got, with the out of the box reports, you'll notice where there's quite a bit of visualizations. You'll typically see with most of the out of the box reports, you'll see where there are 4 or 5 or more different visualizations. So like here, if I hover over my revenue, I can see that my revenue amount for Q3 was a little bit over $1 million. If I want to look at, by location, I can see my San Francisco location, and I can hover over each of these and kind of see my revenue by location. And then down here at the bottom, we can see a little bit more detailed information. So this is kind of more of a table showing the details here. We also can come in and look at things. So any of these tabs, you can basically come in and select. If we want to look at our payables information, of course, we can select just like I showed you previously here. We've got just different visualizations where we can look at our vendor balances. So as we look at the US, we can kind of look at that information. If we want to look at our aging, of course, we can see that as well, and see any of our AP details. So there's quite a bit of out of the box reports. The nice thing that you can do with a lot of these reports that come with NSAW is you can easily edit them. So what I see a lot of our customers do is they'll come in and what you'll notice right here is notice this data pipeline. This is where we've basically combined all of these different data pipelines together in order to build this dashboard. And so if you wanted to modify them, of course, you could come in, expand upon any of these different areas. And if you want to add something, it's just a matter of simply dragging and dropping that onto your dashboard. And then what I see a lot of our customers do is they'll basically leave kind of these out of the box dashboards intact. And then if they modify them, then they'll simply go in and save them into another folder. Okay, so that's what I see a lot of our customers do. I'll go in and show you some other areas just so you guys get a sense of what's kind of covered. If we go into like the sales area, for example, quite a bit of dashboards that focus on things like customer invoices and payments and returns. You can see things like gross margin and fulfillment. You can also see CRM data. So if you're using NetSuite CRM, you can see your kind of opportunity win loss. So on any of these dashboards, we can simply go into, and here we can look at our net sales. And if we want to go in, maybe we want to focus in on a particular subsidiary. Of course, we can just simply click on that and it will refresh and update the data. If we want to go in and look at our sales order, and maybe we want to drill into a particular customer, for example, it would show all of your customers displayed over here on the left-hand side. So as we go through the list, you'd see all of your various customers. And maybe we just want to focus in on ABC company, for example. So here it will go in and show me all of the sales orders. And it looks like I've just got some data for Q2 of 2025. And it looks like I've just got one sales order for ABC. So you definitely can kind of focus in on particular customers, particular subsidiaries, and really kind of narrow down your data. But these are all of the out of the box dashboards that do come with the solution. So I would say definitely, a good starting point for you to kind of review these dashboards. And of course, they can be easily modified. All right, let's move into the Content Explorer. I mentioned earlier, this is really where we have the full analytic warehouse fully documented. And so here we can go in and it will identify all of the different subject areas that we have. We can click over here and it will show you, we've got 105 different subject areas. As we scroll down here, it's alphabetical, so we can look at our banks. We can see things that are related to our checks and credit cards. Here, if we want to go in and look at financials, we can see, budget information, journals. Here, if we want to look at, there's netting that we have, revenue arrangement, snapshot information. And then along with this, we can come over here. And if we want to look at key metrics, of course, there's key metrics that you can view and kind of scroll down the functional area here. But really the value here is within NSAW, notice that we've got over 2,800 metrics that are pre-built into the solution. So you're really not starting with a blank slate here. There's quite a bit of metrics that do come with NSAW. The other thing too, there's workbooks, there's business questions that you can look at. So if there are things where you want to look at things like, what are the total number of checks? There are, simple business questions that you can definitely leverage and use these subject areas and data pipeline areas for report building. Okay, so the Content Explorer really is where you would go if you're looking for, anything documented with the data warehouse. All right, so let's move into the data pipeline. So on the data pipeline, this is really where you're going to go. And let me, hold on one second. Come over here. You've got connections that you can connect to. This, we'll talk a little bit about connections in a few minutes. But the other thing too, before we go into the data pipeline, another nice thing that you can do with the NetSuite Analytics is if you have Excel files, you can bring these Excel files in and use, Excel files in the analytic warehouse as well. But when it comes time to the data pipeline, what you're going to notice are these purple icons right here, and they preface with NetSuite. And so as we go through, I'll show you and explain a little bit about the data pipeline. So what you'll notice right here is we've got a data pipeline called account analysis. And so for your finance folks that work on closing the books, for example, they may look at particular accounts, maybe at month end. And so we do have a data pipeline called account analysis. And so with the account analysis, you could look at any account that's in your chart of account structure. That's kind of where that data pipeline can be used. But you might have things where you're looking at, things like assemblies or work orders. That is kind of where you would use that. There's budgets, there's your NetSuite cash charges. There are things like churn prediction. I talked about the prediction analytics. That's an example of a data pipeline that we've built out that comes with the solution. If you want to look at things like credit cards or credit memos, customer invoices, payments, deposits, estimates. This is just all of the different data pipeline areas that come with the solution. Here's that inventory snapshot that I mentioned previously. There's item fulfillment, journals, opportunities. You'll notice where we also have done areas where we've got order to cash, procure to pay, revenue, sales order, there's sales insights, stock out predictions. All of these are all data pipeline areas. Okay, so I'd like to just go through and kind of show you that, scroll down this listing so that you do get a sense of the depth and breadth of content that we do have. Let me go in and let me just pull up the sales order, for example. What you'll notice with the sales order is when it comes to building reports, we've really made it super easy. And so, like, for example, if we come over here and expand upon customer, in your customer in NetSuite, you've got like their name, you've got all of the detailed information that you see on the customer record. These are all of the various fields that's in NetSuite. So if we want to, maybe pull in and start to build a report with all of our customer information, you'll notice as we scroll down the list, here are all of my various, customers alphabetically. And then here, if we want to go in and maybe we want to start to build a report that contains item information, we can just simply, here's things coming from my item master, my item name. And so we can just simply drag and drop that into the report. Hold on. Let me pull customer name back. And over here, so now we can see our customers and we can see items. So do like to show how you can just simply, if we're building reports, and I'll show you in a few minutes, I'll go through and kind of build a little bit more detailed report. But really what I want to emphasize here is the data pipeline. The other thing too that I'll point out here is on the data pipeline, you've got things like the sales order details. So we have things at the transaction level and at the transaction line level. So here, with the transaction, level, you're going to have like the sales order number, which would be the document number and the transaction name. Those are all the various attributes. And then here, if we go in and look at key metrics, this is where those are those KPIs and calculated fields that come with the product. So if you want to build a report that maybe has, all of your customers with the top 10 sold items or sales by top 10 customers, that's where you can leverage these key metrics. The other thing too that I like to also show you is I talked about the different areas, the data pipeline that comes with NetSuite. So you might want to build a report that contains things like your item fulfillment. And so you can just simply come over here, just do a search on item fulfillment. You'll notice right here, here's the data pipeline, and we can simply add that to my workbook. And you'll notice right here, I've got my item fulfillment. Now, I see a lot of our customers where what they'll do is they'll build safe searches and they'll basically do a data dump into Excel. I would say that would go away because if you're wanting to build a report that contains sales orders, item fulfillment, you might even want to do things like bring in their customer invoice. So we could add that data pipeline. You'll notice here, I've added that data pipeline. And we might also want to come in here and add in our customer payments. So it's really super easy to combine these. And the data model that we've built is very consistent. So if we go in, I expanded upon the sales order earlier. Notice on the customer payment, if I expand upon the customer, the data model, again, is very, very consistent. So that's where we've built all of the joins in the system, for you. So we're taking that heavy lifting and providing the ease of use for report building. If I go and look at customer payments, of course, here we can see I'm on the customer payment data pipeline. So we do have other key metrics built in as well. So I do like to show the data pipeline and how you can combine that together. So good example of showing how you can combine those. The next area I want to go in and show you are the connectors. And so let me just simply not save this. And I'll go here and show you the connectors. So if we want to be able to connect, these are all of the various connectors that you can connect to. If we want to connect to Salesforce, I would just simply put in my credentials, and then I could bring in Salesforce data and NetSuite data, and I could do what's called a mashup and be able to combine that data together. We also, let me go in real quickly and show you how to build a report. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to take customer payments, for example, and I want to look at all of my customer payments. And so when it comes time to building reports, again, drag and drop capabilities. So if I want to pull in my customers, I simply drag the customer over. If I want to look at things like my total payments, again, I can simply just drag that over and I can look at my total of my customer payments, again, over here on the right-hand side. Now, I may want to go in and if I want to, I can also create different visualizations. So if I want to go in and look at this data, let me go in. And I might want to, the other thing too that we can do is if we want to create filters and maybe like here, I want to kind of narrow down the data. Maybe I want to go in and look at let's just create a filter and we want to look at our top 10 customers. So here we can put top 10, top 20, however many we want here. And here I can see my top 10 customers. And maybe I want to go in and let's just sort them high to low. So here we can see Abbott's up here at the top and coming Membo down here at the bottom. Now with this, I can also create different visualizations. So as we go in, we've got all these various visualizations. So if I want to do a bar chart or an overlay chart, I might want to use a scatter chart. That's good for identifying any type of anomalies or patterns. There are things where you can, do funnels. So all different types of chart types that we can, do different visualizations. So here, if I want to look at kind of more of a stack bar, I can hover over and on my payments, I can see the Abbott right here is at a little bit over 3 million in payments. And then I also have the capability to create additional visualizations. And so here, if I want to go in, and I could really select really any type of visualization, from here. Language narrative is kind of a common one where, if we want to pull in more wording and have more of a kind of a language explanation, we can do the same thing. So here, if I want to pull in my customer full name, I can simply drag and drop that over. And then I also can come over and just simply drag in my customer payments. And so this will give me a detailed narrative as to all of the details regarding payments. Now, you also have a little bit more other capabilities here where we can kind of go a little bit further. We want to pull in subsidiary, we can drag and drop this up to the top. We could also look at, different time periods. So if we want to look at a particular period, we could simply just drag and drop that up here as well. So keep in mind with the reporting, super flexible. You can build different visualizations regarding your data. All right, let me wrap up with some of the AI capabilities. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull up a dashboard. And what we'll do here is I've got a dashboard that's been built, and this could really be any dashboard that you have. And what we can do is when you go in and you edit a dashboard, there's this icon up here at the top that provides auto insights. And this is really where you can take any data. So it could be a spreadsheet, it could be a combination of, data that you have from Salesforce and NetSuite. It really could be, it could be data that I showed you previously where I built a report that's just NetSuite data. What it does is with this insights, it goes in and reads all of the data on this particular data set. And so here we've got basically 23,000 rows that make up, things with customers and vendors and transactions. Here I'm looking at monthly revenue and looking at cost of goods sold. But as we scroll down this list, what you'll notice, and you can do this with any data, it will identify insights into your data. And so it will go in, analyze the data. It will look at, your average amounts. It will put together charts of your data. And so really it basically kind of just reads all of your data and analyzes everything right here on the fly. So as we scroll down, we can look at trends of our data. So we can look at revenue. We can even see top 10 customers by particular dollar amounts. When I hover over that, it will show me, again, my revenue. And then you also have the capability to leverage the assistant. And the assistant is really where you can ask questions about your data. So here, if I want to come in and just say, who are my top 10 customers? I can just simply put in questions and it will go through and identify my top 10 customers. Now, notice on here, you can change the chart types. You can add or remove data, but again, this is really designed to ask questions of your data. Okay. So again, pretty exciting stuff. The insights, the assistants, you can ask questions. All of this is key functionality that comes with NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. So at the end of the day, really the value that this solution brings is it's really built for your NetSuite transaction data. You can bring in, custom data, any of your custom fields that you have built inside of NetSuite. Of course, you can bring that into the data warehouse very, very easily. There are embedded connectors that I mentioned earlier. It really is an all-in-one solution and pre-built and ready day one.